Welcome back to another deep dive. Okay, so today we're peering into something, well, really fundamental, isn't it? How we nourish our youngest. We're taking a good look at the global infant nutrition market, specifically its projected growth, looking at the numbers from 2021 all the way out to 2033. And our main source for this exploration, it's the Global Infant Nutrition Market Forecast, 2021-2033. That's a report put together by Cognitive Market Research. So our goal here for you is really to pull out the most important bits, the surprising facts maybe, just give you a kind of shortcut to understanding this, well, this vital and really expanding sector.
Exactly. And what's quite fascinating, I think, is how this source really lays out the financial story. You get this clear roadmap of market growth over more than a decade. It's quite detailed.
Okay, so let's start broad then. The
Mm.
big picture, what's the overall direction? Where is this market actually heading globally?
Right, globally.
Yeah.
Let's see, the market generated about $216 million back in 2021. Then it climbed up, hitting over $424 million by 2025. And the projection by 2033, it's expected to reach a pretty significant $761 million, almost $762 million, actually, which works out to an impressive compound annual growth rate, the CAGR of nearly 7.6% for that whole period.
Wow, 7.6%. That's quite an expansion. So what's fueling that? I mean, what are the key drivers the report points to behind those numbers?
Well, the report is pretty explicit. It highlights three main things. You've got rising birth rates globally.
Yeah.
Then there's increasing awareness around maternal health, which is obviously linked. And maybe most interestingly, a growing demand for what they call fortified infant formulations.
Okay, fortified infant formulations. You touched on that. Can you maybe elaborate a bit? What exactly are those and why are they such a key driver?
Sure, yeah. So when we say fortified, we're talking about infant formulas mostly that have extra stuff added.
Yeah.
Things like specific vitamins, minerals, think iron, zinc often, prebiotics, probiotics too. They're not just basic calories, you see. They're designed to support, well, specific developmental stages, maybe address common nutritional gaps you might see in certain populations. It's about promoting healthier early development.
Ah, I see. So it's moving beyond just basic sustenance.
Exactly. And this growing demand, it really speaks to a shift, a global public health priority where parents, healthcare systems, they're focusing more on optimizing that early nutrition.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so the global picture is strong growth, driven by these factors. Now let's zoom in a bit. This is where it often gets really interesting, right? Breaking it down by region. Where are we seeing the most, let's say, dynamic shifts?
Okay, yeah, let's dig into the regions. We can start with North America. It's still a very significant slice of the pie. It grew from around $126 million back in 2021 to over $167 million by 2025, and it's projected to hit almost $293 million by 2033. So that's maintaining a pretty solid CGR, around 7.2%.
Okay, 7.2%. And within North America, any specific countries leading the way or showing, unique patterns?
Well, the U.S. is definitely the biggest chunk. It's projected to reach over, $227 million by 2033. That's a 6.9, nearly 7% CEGR. But Canada's interesting. Smaller market overall, sure, starting around $15 million in 2021, but it's projected to hit over $40 million by 2033. That's an 8.8% CAGR. So faster growth velocity there.
Nearly 8.8%. That is interesting.
Yeah. And Mexico also shows steady growth, rising from about $11 million to nearly $25 million by 2033. So strong trends across the continent, really, even if the scale differs. Okay, shifting over to Europe now, also seeing robust growth there. It went from around $91 million in 2021, Podio to over $121 million by 2025. And the forecast for 2033, over $211 million. The KDR is very similar to North America, actually, about 7.18%.
Okay, similar pace. Any particular standouts in Europe, either big markets or maybe faster growers?
Well, the UK, Germany, France, they're the big players in terms of volume, naturally. Germany projected around $31 million, France around $27 million, UK $22 million by 2033. But what I find quite noteworthy is the consistency across the board. Even smaller markets, like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even Luxembourg, they're all showing steady, reliable expansion. Sweden going from about $2 to nearly $5. Denmark similar. Switzerland from $2.02 to $4.05. It suggests this demand for specialized infant nutrition is really broad-based across Europe, not just concentrated in a few places.
Right, so it's widespread demand.
Exactly. And you also have Russia and Spain contributing significantly. Russia projected at $26.5 million, Spain nearly $15 million by 2033. Plus the rest of Europe category is also quite substantial. Okay, but now, if we're talking about the real engines of future growth, we have to look at Asia Pacific, The report explicitly calls this out as the fastest growing region. No question. Its revenue is set to jump from roughly $59 million in 2021 all the way to over $157 million by 2033. That's an 8.8% CAGR overall for the region.
Wow, 8.8% for the whole region. That's really moving. So nearly tripling its size from 2021.
Pretty much, yeah. The sheer velocity there is, well, it's really something.
So which markets are driving that? I mean, where is that explosive growth coming from within Asia Pacific?
Okay, well, India stands out immediately. It shows an absolutely astonishing CAGR, 9.74%. That's the highest listed in the entire report. It's growing from about $10 million in 2021 to nearly $30 million by 2033.
Almost 10% growth year on year.
Incredible, isn't it? And it's not just population. It reflects, rising incomes, rapid urbanization, changing how people feed infants. Plus, this growing awareness around early nutrition. It's a dynamic mix.
Makes sense. What about other major players there?
China and Japan are still huge, of course. China projected over $45 million, Japan over $32 million by 2033. So very significant markets. But you also see really strong growth in South Korea, hitting over $10 million.
Yeah.
Singapore's looking strong, too, jumping from $2.02 to over $6.06.
Yeah.
And the broader Southeast Asia region, that's another key area, projected to hit over $14 million. Australia, Taiwan, rest of APAC all showing solid growth, too.
It's really a powerhouse region for this market then. Okay, so we've covered North America, Europe, and the fastest grower, Asia Pacific. But it's not just them, right? What about the other regions? Are we seeing, similar significant shifts in South America, the Middle East, Africa?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what makes this so compelling. It really is a global phenomenon. Let's take South America, poised for really robust expansion, climbing from nearly $22 million back in 2021. Portu, over $58 million projected by 2033. That's another strong CAGR, 8.6%.
8.6%, wow.
And the key players there.
Brazil's largest, projected around $19 million by 2033. Argentina follows, aiming for over $8 million. Colombia, Peru, Chile, all showing healthy growth rates too. And the rest of South America category is also quite large. Okay, then the Middle East. It climbed from just under $12 million in 2021. And it's targeting nearly $24 million by 2033, so roughly doubling. Saudi Arabia is a major driver there, projected to hit over $7.5 million. Turkey, UAE, Egypt, Qatar, all contributing to that growth. It reflects, evolving consumer habits and that rising focus on specialized nutrition.
And finally, Africa, often seen as an emerging market in many sectors.
And it's definitely surging here, too. It moved from around $6.3 million in 2021 to a projected $17.4 million, almost $17.5 million by 2033. That's an 8.07% CAGR.
Another strong growth rate. Which countries lead there?
Nigeria and South Africa are the key ones highlighted. Nigeria heading towards $3.5 million, South Africa towards $5.7 million by 2033. It really indicates, growing demand for higher quality infant nutrition as awareness grows, as economic development picks up across parts of the continent. So yeah, when you step back and connect all these regional pictures, what you're seeing is this truly widespread economic and societal shift. It's deeply tied to priorities in public health and early childhood development.
Right. Okay, so that gives us a really comprehensive picture then. Just to recap the main points for everyone listening, we've seen this really impressive projected growth globally, right? From about $316 million in 2021, heading towards over $761 million by 2033. And that expansion, it seems clearly driven by those rising birth rates, definitely the heightened awareness around maternal and infant health, and maybe crucially, that significant demand for those specialized fortified infant foods pretty much across every region we looked at.
Exactly. And, thinking about all this, it kind of raises an important question, maybe for you, the listener, to ponder. Given this really consistent, widespread growth, I mean, it's happening everywhere across such diverse regions. What does that truly imply? Beyond just the market figures, what does it say about perhaps evolving global priorities when it comes to child development or public health strategies, or even, the future of consumer goods more broadly? It feels like it touches on something bigger than just baby food, doesn't it?
That's a really interesting thought to end on. What are the broader implications? Definitely something compelling to consider, maybe a new area for you to explore further. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the global infant nutrition market. We certainly hope you feel significantly more informed.
Okay, think for a second about the baby food aisle at the grocery store. Or maybe you've overheard conversations about feeding babies, new parents, new snippets. It feels pretty fundamental, right? This basic need for nourishment early on. But have you ever really stopped to think about the huge, really complex industry behind all that and how it's kind of quietly changing parenting across the globe? Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, the evolving global infant nutrition market. So our mission here is to unpack the surprising growth, the powerful forces driving it, and maybe peek at the future trends shaping this honestly critical industry. We're using insights from expert market research, and trust me, we're going beyond just the numbers. We want to explore the societal shifts, the clever innovations, the real human stories behind these big market changes. What's this market really telling us about being a parent today? That's what we're hoping to figure out. All right, so let's jump in. Looking at the growth, this market isn't just ticking up. It's seeing some really significant expansion. And what are the biggest engines behind this boom?
It seems to be the global rise in working mothers, especially in emerging economies. That's a massive societal change, obviously. But what's the real impact here beyond just convenience? Is it actually, reshaping how we think about early nutrition?
That's a really important point because it's not just about making things easier, though that's part of it. What we're seeing is this subtle but pretty profound shift away from maybe more traditional caregiving models. And this change, it translates directly into, well, a growing reliance on infant formula and other nutrition products. For working parents, yeah, it's partly necessity, but it's also a sort of new idea of convenience, one that values efficiency but doesn't want to sacrifice, perceived quality. When more mothers work full time, it just becomes much harder to sustain exclusive traditional feeding methods. And that creates whole new demands in the market.
Right, and we're seeing actual data backing this up. Like the Japan Times reported last year, June 2023, that Japan hit a record 30.35 million working women. That's a huge number, and you can see how that would directly influence feeding choices. Right? It fuels demand for things like ready-to-feed, high-quality formula. It's like a snapshot of what's happening globally.
Exactly. And if you zoom out, this isn't just happening in one place. It gets another boost from another really crucial driver, the growing middle class, especially in developing nations. As more families gain some economic stability, these infant nutrition products suddenly become more affordable, more accessible. This doesn't just, open up new customer bases. It kind of changes parental aspirations, too. They can now invest in specialized nutrition they might not have even considered before. So the market reach just expands fundamentally.
That makes sense. And beyond just demographics, we're also seeing this big shift in what parents prioritize. There's definitely rising health consciousness, and maybe urban living plays a role too. It feels like it's really transforming the industry. Parents seem much more aware of, specific nutritional needs for infants and toddlers, and they're actively looking for high quality stuff, partly maybe because of lingering concerns about malnutrition risks. It feels like a new level of parental focus.
Yeah, and that raises the question, right? How's the industry actually responding to this heightened demand, this almost like scrutinizing gaze from parents?
Yeah.
The short answer is rapid innovation. I mean, companies are pouring money into R&D. They're not just trying to meet the current needs, they're trying to anticipate the next ones, really pushing the science of nutrition.
And you can see that innovation in action. Look at something like the launch of Bobby Labs back in October 2022. This is a research hub. And they've committed, $100 million by 2030, just to shake up infant feeding in the U.S. Their focus seems really clear. More access, better quality, more options, all driven by science. It's not just about selling a product. It's about trying to pioneer what comes next.
Okay, so we have all this growth, this innovation. It sounds great, but it's not all smooth sailing for this market. One of the biggest challenges really is the incredibly strict regulatory landscape around infant food. You have organizations like the World Health Organization, the WHO, strongly advocating for exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months, and they explicitly discourage relying too early on infant formula. That creates a real tension for businesses in the space.
Yeah, and it's not just the WHO globally. You see different rules in different places too, right? Like the EU has some really tough restrictions on advertising infant formula.
Yeah.
You just won't see the same marketing push there as you might elsewhere. That fundamentally changes how companies have to operate in those markets.
Exactly. And to add another layer, think about the Codex Alimentarius. Sounds technical, I know, but it's basically the global rulebook for food standards, put out jointly by the UN's FAO and the WHO. The update from December 2023, it lays out very strict guidelines. We're talking formulation, marketing, everything for follow-up formulas, products for kids aged 1 to 3. These aren't just suggestions, they're powerful rules that kind of harmonize standards globally. They really dictate what manufacturers can and can't do, often driving very specific ingredient choices and marketing tactics. So what's the takeaway here? All these regulations, they act as a very real barrier for manufacturers, a restraint. They can definitely slow down how quickly companies enter certain markets, especially in regions where breastfeeding advocacy is really strong and these rules are strictly enforced. It means companies have to innovate, yes, but within these much narrower, though ultimately safer boundaries. It's a constant balancing act, really, between their commercial aims and public health goals.
Okay, so that's the challenge side. Looking ahead now, what about the future? There's some really interesting trends shaping things, right? The first one that seems to be making huge waves is this demand for organic and clean label infant nutrition. That feels like more than just a buzzword. It seems like a major shift in what consumers expect.
Oh, absolutely. And the behavior driving it is fascinating. Parents today, particularly, millennials and Gen Z, they are scrutinizing labels like never before, seriously digging into them. They want total transparency. Where did the ingredients come from? How was it made? What's the exact nutritional breakdown? They're actively preferring minimal processing, stuff that's free from additives. And yeah, those organic certifications matter. It's really a demand for purity, for trust. It says a lot about broader values, I think.
And you can see the direct impact, right? Manufacturers are basically being forced to reformulate, to reposition their products just to meet this demand. It's not really a niche anymore, is it? It feels like it's becoming a mainstream expectation. Ignore it at your peril, basically.
For sure. And then the second really transformative trend is digitalization. We're seeing the rise of direct-to-consumer DTC models and just general e-commerce platforms completely changing the game. It's making premium products, niche items, even those subscription boxes for baby food, way more accessible than they ever were before. It kind of bypasses the whole traditional supermarket shelf setup.
Yeah, it's all about that convenience without compromise idea again, isn't it? You see these great examples like auto-replenishment services never run out of formula, or these personalized nutrition bundles delivered right to your door. For parents who are already juggling so much, that kind of ease, especially when it feels like it comes with higher quality, is really appealing.
Definitely. And you see this trend being particularly strong in, say, urban markets, places with high digital literacy, good internet access.
Yeah.
That just amplifies its impact. It sort of hints at a future where maybe getting specialized nutrition is less about your zip code and more about your internet connection.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive today, the big takeaway seems to be that the global infant nutrition market isn't just growing bigger. It's actively transforming. Really profound changes driven by how we live, how we parent, what we value.
Exactly right. And this evolution, it seems, guided by this powerful trio. You've got shifting consumer behavior demanding more transparency and quality. Then you have that watchful regulatory oversight shaping product development and marketing. And finally, this wave of digital innovation that's making things more accessible.
So as we think about all these shifts, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What fundamental assumptions maybe about parenting or about health or even about global supply chains might we need to re-examine? Perhaps it's that the very smallest members of society are actually proving to be some of the biggest drivers of market innovation and, well, even cultural change. Something to think about.